It's the Uprising.
This is the Uprising podcast. We have on today Vote In or Out. They're a platform that gives voting information to voters about positions of politicians, a lot of other great things. So I definitely wanted to have them on before the election because I bet they're really busy because of this election. So I'm definitely grateful to have them on. And I'd love to have you guys introduce yourself and what you do with your app and platform.
I'm going to let Nelson start.
I'm Nelson Figueroa, former Major League pitcher, now the Executive Director of Outreach for VoteInOrOut.com. I joined the team last year, meeting Julia at a Mets game, actually, during the 1969 celebration weekend. We met and we had a rain delay. Mm-hmm. We just started talking about different things that we're involved with, and she showed me Vote In or Out, and I thought it was an absolutely breathtaking concept that I couldn't understand how it hasn't been done already. And it's evolved into this thing that I'm very proud to be a part of, being that it's a nonpartisan place to go for information and for crowdsourced, fact-checked information when it comes to the issues that we are all very passionate about. And it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, there are definitely issues that you're passionate about. And you want to see how the politicians that you're voting for, where do they line up? Where do they stand on them? And so people have a chance to post different articles and then have people read them, vote them up or vote them down. And the best articles on each one of those issues are then risen to the top, and you are made aware of where that politician stands. I thought this was a genius idea. I'll get into a little bit more detail, but with my introduction, I come from a baseball analyst background. So to me, you can tell me your favorite baseball player is X, and I can look up the numbers and say why he's not the best player of all time. Mm-hmm. The numbers are the facts. Your opinion is your opinion, and always will be. But I like to have the opportunity to have the facts thrown in there to show you what is the real truth of who the best first baseman is of all time. So I come from it from that angle. And when it comes to voting, I know when I voted back in 2008 for Barack Obama, and all of a sudden I look up and say, there were 50 other things on that ticket that I had to vote for. And I didn't know where I stood. I was ashamed of myself, proud that I voted. And then all of a sudden I was like, there were 49 things I could have messed up. And I didn't ever want to feel that way again. So I liken it to a mock draft. I wouldn't go into a mock draft for fantasy football unprepared. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure that voting every day is a concept that we have. And we go online and you check into those different areas and different issues that you're passionate about, see what's going on with the politician that you would vote in or out today. And you have a digital ballot that you keep doing every day. And then when it comes time to vote, you know where you stand.
Yeah, of course. And Julia, you want to get into your side as well?
Hi, I'm Julia Fusco-Luberoff. I am one of the co-founders of VoteInOrOut.com and the executive director of Women's Empowerment here. I'm also the executive director of the Women's March in New York City and a special education teacher. So I wear a lot of hats. And so all of those three things came together to try to help us build this into something that people will understand on the level of facts, evidence, and truth. Yeah. From an educator standpoint, I teach science. So your experiment worked or it didn't, and then you go back and you find out why. We don't get that in politics. We get personalities. We are voting mainly on whether I like this person, or sometimes if I like the way the sound of their voice is. So how do we get people to understand or care enough to get onto a site where they're actually going to look stuff up? This started in 2018 when the Parkland tragedy, the shooting at Parkland happened. Mm-hmm. My co-founder, Lisa, who is the genius behind this design and found this. When Nelson said, I can't believe this never existed before, Lisa was the one that looked at the internet and went, here are the holes and I'm going to fill them.
Great.
Yeah, and she's been working in user experience and social media psychology for 20 years. She works at Thrive Global under Ariana Huffington. This is what she does all day. We
Yeah.
had a friend she has a friend whose daughter was there during the shooting
Okay.
and had to jump over dead bodies, I mean, the aftermath.
Our best friend was killed.
Yeah, and her best friend was killed, shot, I think,
It's-
8 times in the stomach.
It's terrible.
It galvanized us. As a teacher, I do active shooter drills in my classroom. What is the active shooter drill? It's shut the light, shut the door, hide the kids, and hope no one comes in.
Yeah.
That's our defense. So we watch those kids in Parkland after that rise up and say, we're not going to take this. As a teacher for 18 years, I've never seen a generation that is this active, this organized, and this determined to make change. So Lisa and I kind of looked at each other and were like, we got to do something about this. And she started sketching the idea on a napkin. She started, building stuff, putting designs together. For a year, we had nothing but an idea. And then, like I said, we met him. We went around the country. We were talking to different people, telling them about the idea. Turns out we got it built. And we magically got it built through just self-funding it and busting our butts and grassroots organizing and making this into something that's completely nonpartisan, focusing on issues instead of what team you play for. So, for example, if someone, let's say Nelson and I disagree on guns on our site, I'm not really going to interact with Nelson because we sort you into what you're passionate about. So now you're going to meet up with a bunch of people that are passionate on your side that want to make progress. Then we connect that research, those people, to advocacy groups and then to action. So it takes every step of the way in the political process and gives you a voice and a say and a choice in it.
Yeah.
In addition, you build your ballot, right? So when you're building your ballot, now you have a way to show your politicians on your other social that you will be on every day. I didn't agree with what you did. I'm voting you out. Right. And they can see that immediately. And it becomes a very powerful tool to put power back into the hands of the American populace. And eventually.
Yeah, of course, like that's the problem we are in this country right now. No one can trust politicians, and unfortunately, no one can really trust our media anymore because they both have their sides, and they some media organizations just want to play neutral, and other media organizations is super biased. And the difference between having a bias, everyone has a bias, that's fine.
Of course,
is the problem is when you have a bias, and like you're saying, you play for a team, and my team can't do anything wrong, my politicians don't do anything wrong,
right?
And
when they do, no one speaks up.
Yeah, and that's not okay, and that's one of the reasons why our politics is so toxic right now, is because no one can trust anyone. And it's the difference between having a bias but being objective with your bias. I guess I'm a fairly biased person myself. I have a certain aspect of my politics, but I'm very objective. If I think my side is doing something incorrect, I'll be very critical. If you watch my show, you would know that. I'm a progressive Democrat. I am very, very critical of the Democratic Party, as well as the Republican Party, which is fine. And everyone has their bias, and everyone has their lane. And what you guys are doing is so different, because you're not partisan, and you're just putting out the facts of what these politicians say or believe, and you can hold those politicians accountable for what they've said and what they believe. Because if I know politicians very well, and most people do, is they'll say one thing and they'll do the complete opposite. And well, then you can have, if in Discord with people or online or anything like that, with your site, and other great sites, you can show, well, no, this politician said this, and they're not doing that.
Right.
So, and that's great because a lot of people don't want to believe things, and you literally have to show them that
everything is being called fake news now, right?
Yeah.
No matter what, if you disagree with it, the first thing you bark out is fake news. That's the catchphrase.
Right.
You brought up a lot of key points about what we try to do with our app. One of the things we don't have is a comment section, because all we've seen in Facebook, you get on Facebook, and as soon as you put out something that you're passionate about, where you lie politically, there will be 300 people who will not just talk down to you, talk nasty about it. They get into arguments. So family and friends are no longer family and friends when it comes to politics. You can go watch a ball game together, but you will say, hey, we're not going to talk about politics. We're going to just enjoy the game. We're trying to do that in essence by you're able to share these articles. So someone posts an article, you like that article, you save it, and then you can share it and show somebody else, hey, did you see this? So I get into it all the time with Trump supporters. And all I do is ask Trump supporters, why? It's a very simple question, why? And I want to be educated. And they can't verbalize why. They can give me ideas and concepts. You know, he doesn't speak like a politician, and that's a fact. He doesn't speak more than a fourth grader. But what it comes down to is show me the facts of what he has done to make your life better in the last 3.5 years. Here are some articles, because I have them saved up, ready to go, and I can show you this. So when you say he's a great businessman, I can show you how much debt he is in. And that's a great businessman who's doing it with our money now. That's where you have to draw the line. So what I have realized through all this, when the Parkland shootings happened, there were 207 gun laws that were affected and put into place. The NRA put out a pamphlet that year and said that there were indeed 207 gun laws changed, but they didn't say if it was for stricter gun laws or for lesser. So they took that number, that factual number, and they made a play on it. They spun it the way that they wanted to spin it.
They misrepresent the
So
way they want.
what we said was that's not okay. The people that do the research, and there's always the research in those numbers, they want the truth to be known. Now, whatever media outlet has those numbers, they can skew it and tell the story from whatever perspective they want.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to take out of it. So when you post an article, be ready for it to be fact checked and voted down. And if it gets voted down, no one will ever read that. But as the good articles are voted up, and there's positivity in that, and trust us, we have fail-safe measures in there for
it's unweaponizable.
If they're trying to 10,000 votes all of a sudden in an hour and trying to boost it up, we know, of course, that that's not really happening. We have fail-safes. We have measures to counteract that. What we love to do is we have a stance switch button up at the top. As soon as you're done reading your research and you want to say, I wonder what the other side's seeing. If it seems so black and white with the numbers, you hit the stance switch and you can see what the other side is viewing and what articles they're reading, so that you are well prepared for any, I hate saying debate, but it's like conversation now.
It's exchange of ideas the way it's supposed to be. It's communication in America the way that we used to be able to talk to each other before all of this division. This takes your ego out of it, is what it does. It just turns it into, this is what this article says. Is it true? So let's say 90% of the article is true, but 10% isn't. I'm going to fact check that 10% that isn't, but I'll still save the article because 90% is true. But now I have a fact check on it that other people can read as well that says, hey, I read all this. You have 222 characters to say I support, I agree, I disagree, for these reasons, and then show your evidence. That's what we're asking for. What's the evidence? What's the evidence that makes you want to vote for this person? Why it holds that not only the politicians accountable, it holds the media accountable. It holds the human population accountable for their own choices and their own words on the internet. Now you can't just yell MAGA and be on the site because no one will take you seriously. You can't just yell, Biden 2020 and we will not take you seriously. Right, riding with Biden. Great. But I don't care who you ride with or who you vote for. Know who you're voting for and know why you are voting for them.
Anthony Veneziale we met with him, and he said something that was so profound to us. He said, it's no longer okay to have a different opinion. You have to hate the other side. That's what we're being taught. And that's a huge division as an American. Freedom of speech and freedom of religion, freedom to believe what you want, that's great. But facts are facts. So you can come at it from either side. But if you're not open to receiving those facts, then you're just a closed-minded person who doesn't want to see real change. You might be happy with where you're at, but when you realize what's happening around, especially in 2020, with everything that has gone on, we're trying to give up this platform, a safe place for people who, after the marches, after the protests, what do they do now? Get educated, know who you're voting for, and be ready when it comes election day. Because this isn't just about November 3rd. This is about the elections that are coming up after that, the local elections, the ones that are really important, because those are going to be your representatives. You want to know where they stand, how long have they been involved. You want to know all that information. It's not just about the two candidates at the top right now that are going for the president. This is something why we use that catchphrase, vote every day. You want to get that information. You want to be ready. You want to be in the know, especially when it comes to local government and when in the state side of things, because you want to be prepared for those elections that happen every 2 years.
We are right now we just have presidential and congressional candidates. The entire Congress and everybody running for Congress is on our site right now. That's for this election. And just because, like I said, we're grassroots, we're self-funded. That's what we were fund for now, that part of the down ballot. Everyone at this point, you know whether you're Biden or Trump, but you know which senator you're voting for? Do you know which representative you're voting for? And do you know why? Are you just voting because they're Democrat? Or are you just voting because they're Republican? Do you know anything about what they did? There are some on Republicans I've looked at that I'm like, I'd vote for that guy if that's what he's really doing.
Yeah.
And I'm nowhere near a Republican at all. But now, because of this site, because we built this, I have learned so much about representatives around the country that I never even heard of before. There are names. We have 535 people that are representing us, 330 million. Yeah. So why don't I know everything about every single one of them when we are all, 50 states, but we're a United States of America. All of the decisions they're making affect all of us. Yeah. So this is a chance for me to go, you know what? If I lived in Texas, I'd be voting in MJ Hagar right now. If I lived in Alabama, I'd be voting in this one. If I lived in, North Carolina, I'd be voting in this one. And I need my friends in North Carolina to know that, because they trust me. Your peers trust you more than they trust the media or anybody else. So if I say to my friend Kristen, who lives in Texas, you need to vote for MJ Hagar, check out all these articles on her, right? She'll read those articles. She may have never even known that at the time, but she's not a Democrat, my friend. She's a Republican. Yeah. But she will read this, and I know her, and she will think that this is the person that will represent her better, regardless of being Republican or Democrat. So we literally do not divide along party lines. We unite people around the issues that someone is going to fight for you for. Who are you being represented by, and why? Yeah. Is it, so this has so many applications, especially during 2020 and COVID, where our kids are not being educated. They're just not. We're trying. We're doing our best. It's education right now for kids is nothing like it should be or could have been. Yeah. It would have been so much better. We're in New York City. I'm a New York City public school teacher. We had 6 months to get remote learning going. My entire classroom myself was online prior to this. Why can't we do this? Like, my kids were self-paced. I teach special ed and it works. They couldn't figure that out. Why? So I get to read these articles now. Other people get to read these articles now and find out. We're eventually going to have every governor, every mayor, every city council, down to the PTA of every school, elections built that everyone's informed on what's happening. But like I said, we're grassroots, so this is where we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're grassroots as well. We're just beginning really as well. So I got two questions. The first one is, It's like you said, 500 and around 500 in Congress. Well, it's like 5,000 entire government.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
represents 340 million people. So, and that's the problem that a lot of people have is they know the president, they might know who the governor is, they might know who the senator is, but they don't know who their House representative, they don't know who their state house is or state senator is, don't know what they believe or anything along those lines. Is hey, he's a Democrat or he's a Republican, I'm just gonna vote for him because he probably has my views, or he might not even have your views, or that person might not have your views. They just somehow got into that position because of certain reasons, and that's the disconnect. Is there's so much information, and there's so many people that when you really think about it, so many people in government, and these people are making decisions for us. And I don't think people realize how important politics is, and how we still live in a democracy, barely in my eyes, but we still live in a democracy.
at the moment.
Barely, but we still live in a democracy. And if you're not making decisions and voting and being active when it comes to politics, other people are making decisions for you.
Right.
And like you said, politics is not just 4 years or then we vote and we go back to bed. And that's one of the reasons I believe that our politics is so rotten and a lot of the politics is corrupt, is because a lot of people do that. And if
we make it easy for them to be corrupt because we don't pay attention.
Yeah.
With social media and the internet now, there's so much that transparency that has to happen, right? Because it's easy to look up what's going on. It's easy to look up who's funding who. It's easy to look up the lobbyists. It's easy to look up where that money's coming from in there, and not only, well, not tax returns, because we know how that turns out, but to see exactly where all this money's coming from, and you can see where the alliances lie. It's easy now. There's websites dedicated to it. You can just a couple clicks away from getting all that information. So at voteinorout.com, that's why we really focused on being able to show you exactly where you might line up. You could be a fourth generation Republican in the same house, right? And your views are totally different than your grandfather's views. The world's a different place than when it was just Republicans and Democrats and it was two parties and that was it. There's 36 in between the red and the blue. So you have to realize where you lie, maybe more towards an independent, more towards wherever you lie. But what you can't do is just sit back and go, this is the party that I'm with. If your views have changed, your views are different than your father's even. And the world has changed since then. You can't just sit back and go, I just vote Republican just because. That's just an ignorant way to live. And especially when all those decisions are being made and you go, wait a minute, I didn't want that to happen. Well, you didn't vote. You didn't vote for the way that you really believed in. You just thought that they had your best interests. They often don't. You got to remember that, as we said, there's only so many people representing us. And to get these things changed, you have to be caught up with what's going on. So you get on the site. There's several people that I've reached out to and said, hey, just check out the site. Let me know what you think. I get phone calls back or text messages going, so when I used to ride the train to work, I was playing Angry Birds or Candy Crush. And instead now I take that 15 minutes and I'm reading articles and I'm ready to have an argument or ready to defend myself against anyone. I feel so empowered by this because it's a game changer for me. And I love the fact that it's so easy to use, because what we did was, or what Lisa did in designing this, she took probably 6 different functions of other social media.
All the best mechanics.
So you have making a profile like Facebook. You go down and it's almost like swiping like Tinder, vote in or vote out. You go down to liking things. The flow of it is like Instagram, where it kind of swipes up and you can scroll up. The saving of articles, the voting up and down of articles are like Reddit. So there's familiarity to it. So when you get on the site, it's like, oh, okay, this kind of feels like I've done this before. You make your profile and you don't have to make it public. You can make it private. But again, it's about you being able to share those articles. You become a voter influencer.
Yeah.
And it's also about you being able to stay informed over this information overload
Yeah.
that we're
Mhm.
getting. News fatigue is real.
Mhm.
People are tired of the every single day 97 things are happening that are just like, what? Wait, what? Like, hold on. And you can't process it all. And a lot of people just shut it down. We have conversations out in the wild with people, and
Mhm.
this is their problem. They don't care anymore. They're just voting their way they're voting because they don't want to hear it anymore. So we allow you to take that time, like his friend, to go, okay, I'm going to save this for later. I'm going to save this for 2 years from now when the midterms come up, or I'm going to
Mhm.
save this for when whatever. And when it's time to vote for that person, oh, what did you do back in 2020 when now I'm voting in 2024?
Mhm.
Didn't really like that. I voted you out for that. Now I added that. You really get to go through every part of it on
Yeah.
your own time, in your own level. You're never 3 clicks away. You're never more than 3 clicks away from any piece of information that you want.
Yeah, that's
On
another
any-
thing. The rabbit hole. The rabbit hole.
The
of
rabbit
Google.
hole, yeah.
You
Yeah.
put in something in Google, and then you're gonna get clickbait on the side of it. You're gonna find out what are the 80 pop stars doing now. You wind
Yeah.
up clicking on that. 2 hours later, you're none the wiser than you were when you went looking for that information. So
We make it even so that your advertisers that want to advertise on our site have to be able to be fact checked.
Yeah.
So your advertisement has to be true. Your commercial has to be true. The thing you're selling, like there are laws in place for these things, but there's no place to aggregate all of it.
Mhm.
And that's what this does. It's that rabbit hole. There's no more rabbit hole. Like I said, Lisa looked at all the rabbit holes, and
Yeah.
I tell you, genius. This will be on the cover of Time one day. There'll be statues to her.
it's annoying. It's annoying because what you do is you say, you know what would be a nice feature is if you could make it do this, and about 20 seconds later, she's like, it does it now.
Yeah, like
What do you mean it does it now? And you go scrolling. Oh, okay, it does it now. That's a beautiful thing.
It is.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
It's organic. It's been organic. It's grown. It's morphed into this thing where we love input. We get constant input from people about what features would be added, what things would be, how can we enhance the product, and that's something that it's not a perfect item as of yet, but
Right.
at the same time, we hope that people that get on it feel like they're growing with us. And so that's what we look to do is we want to take those people who do the research and we want to make them power researchers. We want to have them be able to build a following, because if you think somebody posts really good articles or you see where where their stance is on certain things and you want to continue following because every article that they put up is getting 50 upvotes and it's usually at the top, that's a person you're going to follow right away for information, and you trust that person's information because again, you trust your peers. It's different when you're being talked to on the boob tube and someone is trying to sell you something and you can look at it and you say that, but I heard something totally different. How could that be possible? Well, go check it out. And when you're able to look at these articles that have been crowdsourced and fact checked, that's what everybody wants. We're looking for the truth.
Constantly crowdsourced and fact checked, constantly vetted, not just like it was a one-time thing, and it's not us doing it. We are users just like anybody else on the site. We just happen to build it, but we're users like anyone else. So if you disagree with me, I'm not right. The content I put out might be wrong. Hey, if I get downvoted, I get downvoted. I was wrong, and that's how it is. So it's making sure that people have that power to have those conversations, exchange that information, those ideas in a place where now they can become an influencer.
Yeah.
Voter influencer, and use the skills, the research skills they have, or the sharing skills they have, or the communication skills they have to share this, educate others on what's really going on. So now there's this whole new category of influencer called voter influencers. And on our site, we can make you an official voter influencer. Once we see that you have a particular following, people are trusting you, your articles are fact checked and they're trustworthy, you get a check mark verifying that you are a credible source of information. So now that's something else people can empower themselves with to empower others. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
There's so many different applications that even trying to explain all of them is hard. But the main idea is get people talking again in a civil way where they're hearing each other,
Yeah.
where they can actually listen and go, let me think about that.
Thinking.
That's all I'm asking
Yeah.
you to do, man. Critically think about
Yeah.
what you're doing. Vote for who you're going to vote for, but critically think about it.
Yeah.
As you know, it's designed under the accountable talk model of the DOE curriculum, where
Mhm.
you have to say I support or oppose, and then someone has to respond to you with facts about why they agree or disagree.
Yeah.
So we've noticed in children, this takes out all of the arguing in debate. This makes conversation civil. It makes them hear each other. We applied that to a social media site. It is the only site that does that right now in the world. It is the only site in the world that does not allow you to weaponize it.
Yeah.
Facebook, Twitter, they all got weaponized for the 2016 election, and they still are not fully accountable for it.
Yeah.
We built this so it can't be weaponized.
Yeah.
It's designed to teach you. And
it's like the public library.
Right.
What information are you going in there for? You want to learn about?
We're literally the Library of Congress right now. Like
we've talked about this. I said, you want to go and learn about the moon? Yeah, you can go to the library and you can read that it's made of green cheese, or you can go to the facts.
Yeah.
And get the satellite and it does this and that. I said that's what we try to liken ourselves to. We're like the public library. You want to go in, you want to get information, you want to get good, credible information. And the fact that now with the internet, it's current. And we also like that you can save it because the news cycle is now. Everybody wants to know what happened now, not 2 years ago, not 3 years ago, even 4 years ago. But if there's no one to go back and say, hey, remember 4 years ago when this article came out and you took this stance? This is where we're at now and 4 years later, and we want to make sure that they're being held accountable still.
Yeah. And
that's
again,
terrifying for our representatives, which is good.
Good. I mean,
imagine, for example, okay, you remember when Mitch McConnell was trying to block the 9/11 compensation fund?
Yeah.
Compensation fund. Okay. So imagine, for example, at this point, vote in or out's out there. Mitch McConnell is on it. Yeah. His vote in numbers are 6 million. And his vote out numbers are 3 million. Is clearly being supported. He blocks that from even being brought to the floor and watches in real time as everybody who cared about 9/11 now switches him to vote out on their ballot. When they do that, he has to do something else to make them put him back.
Yeah.
And they're not going to forget that he was off for that moment. So when he's in the news cycle and you pick up your vote in or out and you go, okay, all right, you made up for that. Vote in, or nah, you're still Mitch McConnell out. Yeah. Right? So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like you have that option, whereas before we didn't have any way except to write a letter to Congress, call people. Kids don't do that. Kids are not making phone calls. Right now they are like crazy, but they're doing it via text. They text everybody. They share. They share. This plants seeds to the youth. It plants seeds into the entire consciousness of our body politic to participate. You can't sit for 4 years on a couch and then do the Olympics. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You gotta practice before you get there. So, it's like, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. And you guys seem like you're making it fairly simple, and it, as well as politics, you don't have to be a junkie that does that as a career, know every single thing about every single thing. But I think people need to at least pay attention to a degree, take 10, 15 minutes out of their day to, okay, well, that's that. All right. Well, he did something I did not like. I'm going to change my opinion. And I think that's the bare minimum people should be doing. And it's not hard. And politics is depressing, and it's really stressful and complicated at times.
It's so disempowering to the
that too, yeah. Yeah, it is really disempowering because you feel like you can't do anything about it. And in ways you can't, but when it comes to politics, especially local politics, your lives are dictated way more from your local representatives than the president or the Senate or
Right.
anything else. And like the virus, for instance, what certain governors have done during the virus has cost numerous lives, and that has way more to do with the local officials and the local government than it does the president.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have a lot of separation between federal laws and state laws, and people need to know where they are, what's going on.
Mhm.
Local is the most important. It's where everything else starts.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we're building into city councils, assemblymen, assemblywomen. We're building into every state senate, every state House of Representatives. Every single election that exists, we're going to be a part of, where you can make your own page for that election. And each of those candidates can take control of their own pages and make sure that their information is out there truthfully.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest things that we're trying to do is we actually have reached out to each one of them, showed them what our product is, and said you can control your own narrative.
Mhm.
But remember, you're going to be fact checked on it. So
Yeah.
that's why it's a dual-edged sword, where it's like, oh, this would be great, and you put out all the best things about yourself. But as it's fact checked, we realize some of these things aren't so good. So
Mhm.
that's where it's about accountability, right? And that's
Yeah.
what you want to see is that, okay, if you are going to take command of your own page and we verify it, we get, say, Biden signs off, all of a sudden, boom, he's putting on every single issue the top 3 articles that have been written on where he stands on environment or climate change or the finance. All those different things come into play, and now you sit back and you're able to say, okay, let's look at them. You look at it and it's been downvoted all the way down to there. You're never going to see that those 3 articles that he put up, and other people get a chance to post their articles as well. So that's where we want to have not just the politicians, but also advocacy groups, because what we want to also be able to do is have a one-stop shop for, hey, you're in a different town, you're in a geolocation you're not familiar with, you want to know what's going on a Saturday, and all of a sudden you can punch in and say, I'm looking the RFK group, you want to see what's going on, what's in town going on with them. You can look it up and say, okay, they're having an event this day. Will you attend? Yes or no, like voting in or out. That'll let them know how many people may be in attendance, how many people to expect in attendance. So if you're an advocacy group, you take over a page with us, then you can have that kind of access and be able to put out your message and be able to engage with users in a different way and have, I would think, a more positive outcome from events and things like that.
Yeah.
Additionally, yeah, it's amazing for that. And additionally, you can have people, working together
Mhm.
to make sure that that politician does the thing that they say they're going to do. So if they're going to put it out there, right now, they're going to be crowdsourced, just like you said. But who's going to be more scared of that? The people who are corrupt.
Yeah.
So that tells you something right away if they don't want to be on the site. It tells you right away. Like the first person to adopt us was Joe Biden. It was like, this is absolutely, yes, we're on. So he's got a verified page. He's got articles. We have over, at this point, I think it's like 2,000 articles on him and Trump.
Yeah, it's a lot.
They've done. Historically, what they've done, you can look at it side by side, issue by issue, by what you care about, what affects you.
Yeah.
For a year, a president has not told us to wear a mask for a virus that's killing 222,000 people by now.
Yeah.
Okay. All he had to say was wear a mask. So you can have people on that site remembering that if he gets reelected, remembering that 4 years from now, we want to make sure that we have a president that in the middle of a crisis is going to take the most basic, tiny step to make it better, and not make it about, be a re-election thing or partisan thing or whatever. We have a virus. It's a virus.
Yeah.
Did you ever see a virus with a political affiliation? I haven't.
Yeah.
Teaching biology a long time.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. So it's, you want to make sure that it's focusing not on just what people are saying, but also what they're actually doing. Imagine if at the debate, okay, you could in real time fact check, and as a runner across the TV, a vote in or out runner across the TV, crowdsourcing all of America watching that. That was the most watched event since the Super Bowl, was that debate. Okay. Imagine if you had just a running fact checking America going, what's going on? Why is he interrupting? Let him speak, and seeing it happen live. Imagine the effect of that on all of those people watching. Imagine the effect of, oh, what is this? Let me check this out. So Vote In or Out TV is another application we're going to be moving into in the future. We literally started 6 months ago. Like, we launched this actual site about 6 months ago. No, at the Women's March we launched. Oh. And we had the bare minimum of just, at that point, it was just Biden and Trump. Mm-hmm. Now we have all of, right. Mm-hmm. There was a sign-up page and just those two. And now we have all of the congressional candidates. By next year, we'll have everybody. And we're focusing next on mayoral races, local races, governor races, and making sure that, people know what's coming up in 2021. 2020 is one thing. 2021 is going to be like, hold my beer.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't stop. It really doesn't. And you guys are really changing things, because I do have a question. Have you all gotten pushback from your platform, from media or politicians?
No,
really?
Honestly, we haven't received pushback at all, because again, I think it's the transparency that.
It's only if they don't understand what we do. Like, people, we had this conversation last night. Right? Oh, yeah. Well, I'm never going on your site. Trump supporters, we're never going to go on your site. It's probably all lefty stuff. Mm-hmm. No, it's not. We need more conservative voices.
Wait, what? Anyone.
And now they start listening.
Yeah, any one of my friends who, again, there are friends that I have that I don't know what their political affiliation is. It doesn't come up in conversation because we are sports oriented. We hang out playing baseball, football, whatever. And now all of a sudden, one thing will come out and be like, did you see that moron talking last night? And of course, well, that's our president. Okay, now I know where this conversation is going to be headed. So first thing I always say is, have you seen my site that I work with, voteinorOut.com? I need more people like you. Because what I want you to do is I want you to do the research for yourself. That's what I want you to do first and foremost, is when you want to go look for an article, post it up there. Let's see what happens to it. Let's see after it's fact checked. Let's see all the different things that you believe to be true, if they're true or not. And when you start seeing these little things pop up, like we just saw the whole Obamagate blow up, and you're sitting back going, he really tried to pass that off like it was the biggest news ever. And when Barr didn't do anything about it, he's like, oh, he's a terrible lawyer now, too, the Attorney General. Are you kidding me right now? Anyone that he puts into office has been the best of the best, he says. And as soon as they get kicked out of office or arrested, they're terrible. They were terrible at what they did.
But we don't even know who they were to begin with.
Exactly.
Who was his cabinet? Who are these people? Where did they come from? What's their background? You have to look them up individually. Who does that? Only people who care about politics. But if you had a place where you could go, this is the whole cabinet, this is their history. Oh, okay, great, good to know. I don't like this, I love this, or whatever. It's you have so much more information at your fingertips in one place. And that's what really makes this
unique.
It is really unique, and again, like, politics is changing. I don't know if you all are aware or not, but AOC went on Twitch and played some video games and
played with my son. He was out of his mind excited. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, she had like 400,000 people just on her stream, and everyone else. So I'm hearing reports like over 1 million people watched that, and that's
Yes,
insane.
Yeah,
it is
we were
insane.
laughing just now because I was looking at TikTok, and on TikTok they were talking about when President Obama went on date night with Michelle Obama, and the media was, "Can you believe the amount of money that's being spent for them to go on a date? This is ridiculous. This isn't presidential." And then you fast forward to where we are now, and you see the things that are happening. How many times he's gone and played golf where he was on the record saying, "I would never have time for golf. I'd be busy working for the American people." Meanwhile, he's golfed more in the first 3 years than Obama did the whole 8 years. So that's one of the things that you look at with social media, where those little things, those little 30-second hits off TikTok, where we're going to be starting a TikTok page where we're going to do the same thing. We're going to give you a bit of information, and hey, do you want to find out if this is true or not? Come check it out, voteinorout.com. Push you to that element, and now all of a sudden you go and see from a cute little video, you're going to get good information that's been crowdsourced and fact-checked, and you're going to feel a lot better about where you stand when it comes to that politician.
Just so you know, we haven't mentioned this, but this is like built from 6 people from Brooklyn who just decided to do this. Like this is, it looks corporate and it looks very professional because Lisa's design, she's amazing. But these are just 6 volunteers that it grew into a team of, there's a lot more, but the basic group was us, and said, we're going to do this. And for a full year, it was just us.
Yeah.
So people have a lot more power than they're even aware of in ways that they don't, in ways they don't apply their skill sets in other areas. So we're able to do that and now bring that to other people to show they can do that too. And if we're able to educate the world in that way, then we've succeeded.
Yeah.
Then we've done what we need to do.
And everyone has their place and everyone has their lane. And if you wanted to do positive things to further this country, that's great. And I do really appreciate that. I'm going to get you guys out of here, but I got one more question, then I'll let you guys go. Let's see here. How responsible do you all think media companies are for the huge divide in America? Do you think they're responsible for the huge divide? Or do you think the politicians are more to blame, or do you think it's kind of a mixture of both?
It's a combination of all three. And I think the biggest one is we are responsible for it because we fed into it. We feed into that media. We bought it. We're the ones that are funding it. We're the ones that are watching that channel or this channel. And the politicians know which channel they're going to be on and what side of the media, how it's going to get spun. So it's a shame that you could literally watching the debate. If I'm watching it on 2 different channels of the reactions to it, it was totally 2 different things. You would have thought it was 2 different events, the way it comes out. And we're to blame for that because you are empowering that news station with everything and the way your views are because you're not looking it up. You're just being told something and you're taking it as fact.
This is true. And this is something I'm glad you asked that because I'm super passionate about this question.
All right.
The media and politicians together are yes, responsible for the divide, but the media especially didn't call it out when it needed to be called out. And that's the job of journalism. And that bothered me a lot. I have always, I'm sure you run a clean show, but I have always said about Chris Cuomo in particular, or, someone that I watch, I want one day, this is 4 years ago, for him to just turn to Kellyanne Conway and be like, you are friggin' lying. Like, you're just lying. They haven't used the word lie, falsehood, misleading. He's a straight out liar. Just, we know this. We know he says both things, so you can't hold him accountable for either. Yeah. He does this on purpose. So yes, the media is responsible for being too timid, and the politicians are responsible for taking advantage of that, and we're responsible for not doing anything about it. Yeah. And not saying and not speaking up enough, not understanding how our purchasing the advertising, whatever they're advertising on these channels is running this and telling them that it's okay to keep doing this.
Mhm.
I think the divide to some extent helps the media, but or at the time they thought it did, and realize how dangerous that was.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
to see what it could turn into, how easily it could be swayed. I'm not ready to wear that lampshade. I'm not. I'm really not. And the
Yeah.
robe hasn't come yet. I'm just not ready. So,
Yeah. I don't think anyone's ready for Handmaid's Tale or anything like that.
but how close are we getting? The episode. I'm not to spoilers ahead.
Spoiler alert.
Oh.
There isn't. I don't know if you've watched it.
I only got through the first season. I haven't.
So you saw the shooting at the protest, right?
Yeah.
That's where we are. They
Yeah.
tear gassing protesters to stand in front of a vandalized church with an upside down Bible is the most Gilead thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Is it not? Like, that's where we are right now. So keep watching the season if you want to see where we're going to be going
Yeah.
in the next couple of years. If people don't, and I'm not just talking about the president. It's not just it's he's a symptom. He's what's showing out, but he's the pus oozing out of
Yeah.
the rest of that corruption. We have a drain the swamp tab.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have endorsements, lobbying. Who's paying for this?
Great.
Where's the money coming from? All of this, and there's no one place where all of this is aggregated. So that's one of the geniuses of the design and how we can hold the media accountable that way.
Yeah. I think people don't realize that money really controls our politics mostly.
Completely. That's one of the things AOC really brought to light for a lot of people. The transparency. Her transparency pissed off everybody.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
She was calling everybody out.
Yeah.
No matter.
And live streaming everything.
Calling out the ridiculous spending by the, yes.
Sharing our government process caused her trouble.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
in
where we're at
the
now.
United States of America. Women are still, the word woman still doesn't appear in the Constitution.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of dichotomy here, and her transparency and her, the way that she's just bold and out there and is like, I'm going to show you how things work. That's what we need. That's one of our inspirations, is that transparency. Why should we be lied to if it affects our lives every single day?
And we are lied to.
Every single day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's harder, but it's harder and harder to be able to keep the lie because again, with the internet and everything else, you're able to be a few clicks away from finding out what the truth is, and that's you can't hide behind a closed door anymore.
No.
So that's one of the beauties of where we're at in this moment in time. You have to be able to go out and look into everything that a politician is telling you and hold them accountable for what their actions are. Because you voted them in. You didn't just vote them in for the day. You voted them in for what the term was.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Why did you vote them in? We take this around. We talk to kids. We ask them to hold it up and tell us who are you voting in? And then the look on their face of, I don't know yet, Well, I think we definitely need a change, but who's going to be my change? And it makes them think. It makes those millions of 18-year-olds that just turned 18, give them a chance to understand what they're doing. They can change the whole country.
Yeah, it really can.
Those 100 million that sat home in 2016.
We've been talking about 18-year-olds, and I try to explain to them that you're an 18-year-old working at McDonald's, while going to, some community college. Your vote counts just as much as the CEO of a billion-dollar company.
Yeah.
Okay. But the difference is that he may be voting the same way he's voted forever and ever because that's where his party affiliation lies. You have a place right now for the first time ever to look into those different parties, look into the different stances, look into the different politicians and get all that information. And it's right in the palm of your hand. The reason we didn't go right to making an app on Android or Apple Store, we didn't want to leave out anyone. So in other words, people who are sitting at home, the older generation that sit at home on a computer, we wanted them to have access to it as well. So they go on the website, voteinorout.com. And if you want to make it look like an app, you can save it to your phone and to your home screen as that little icon, and it takes you there. and on your mobile device, it puts itself in a mobile format. So it just made more sense to do that. And this way, there's no one that's left out. So now that 18-year-old has just as much power when it comes to voting as the 65-year-old billionaire who only gets one as well.
Right. And that 18-year-old understands that other guy is voting to make sure that his minimum wage stays low.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they didn't know that. They don't get it yet. And civics education does not exist anywhere anymore. It used to. New York City doesn't have it. One of the things we're doing as a Women's March is making sure that civics education gets put back into New York City curriculum if we ever go back to school.
We'll see. Hopefully.
Right. This is football.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one way. We see here. Yeah, civics definitely doesn't exist in school. I went to school about 10 years ago in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and our schools ain't great as well. And that's a big problem in our country is education, and biased in our education as well. And
listen, it's scary when you think about if the behavior during the debate, it would be done by a high school student at their debate. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
The one side's going to talk and the other liar. No, that's not true. The whole time, that's not how it was built. That's not how it was supposed to be set up. There was a reason why they taught these classes and they taught how to debate. And there was a debate club in high school. There's a reason for it. Okay.
Yeah. There are rules.
There are rules. But when you see the person at the top who, I'm not a politician, doesn't act like it, doesn't act presidential, then it gives everybody else a free pass because that's the way he's doing it. And he's changing the system. He's draining the swamp. He's telling it like it is. That's not how it is. That's the way he's making it. And it's really a shame.
Yeah, he's not doing any of those things. He's making it swampier and not changing anything really. But try not to get.
No, that's all. We just want you to know what exactly he's doing. Make your own decision if you think. But just know what he's doing.
Yeah. And I think that's again a fault of our media. But you guys are changing the game. Really appreciate you all being on the show. Do you want to get plug some things before we get out of here? You want to? Yeah.
Some things before we get about. Yes, actually, we are going to be on another podcast. Oh my God, forgot the name of it. Shoot. Oh my God, we have 5 of them. No, it's not. It's.
Well, there's voteinorout.com. Vote In or Out is also on Twitter at Vote In or Out.
Yeah.
We have Instagram as well at Vote In or Out. You can follow us both there. We really, it's really blown up for us. We did a morning radio show here in New York not too long ago, and it was. After that, it was pretty funny because for me, again, I played Major League Baseball as a New York Met. And now I have people coming up to me going, were you on the radio this morning talking about voting or out? And I'm like, yeah, that's a website I've been working with. And, the window for a professional athlete is very small.
Yeah.
What do you do after that? So I look at it because I have a 16-year-old daughter who's taking part in those, how to survive a shooting drill. And it got to the point where it was just too much. It was just, how can I help? How can I help educate people? How can I help my daughter as well? She's 16 and we went to a Black Lives Matter protest and someone approached my daughter and said, what are you going to be doing in 2 weeks? An adult approached my daughter and goes, what are you guys going to be doing in 2 weeks to help? And I said, who said that to you? And she said, that lady over there. And I gave her one of our cards and I said, tell her if she wants to learn what to do, go to voteinorout.com. We're trying to be a resource for advocacy groups, a resource as to where can you go now to learn about those politicians to help create change. It's one thing to protest. It's another thing to make sure that you're a registered voter. You're able to go and vote on that day, mail-in ballot, whatever, however you have to do it. However you have to do it, follow through. So don't ask my 16-year-old when you're mid-20s. Make sure that you're educated enough to make the right decisions and help in the next election. That's where I stand.
Exactly. And also, I did find what we are. We're doing a podcast called Politicking for the Culture with Mina and Mawa. They are unapologetically Black Lives Matter oriented. They focus on issues that impact Black communities and also discuss Black popular culture. But they're committed to uplifting Black voices and making sure that we are hearing everybody. Everybody that's been marginalized, their voices need to be raised. We're trying to help, with humor, using their New York flavor humor to get through this really trying time. But their podcast is super important to sharing these kinds of information and kinds of issues out to cultures that have been suppressed. The voter suppression issues in the Black community is out of control. So I definitely want to plug them for that because they need to be.
That's awesome. Definitely going to watch that as well. I appreciate everyone and everything you're all doing. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Yeah. All right. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
It's the Uprising.